the depth of the longevity industry is that it will inevitably be the largest industry the world has ever seen. If we only add 1 year of health span to the global population, it will lead to an increase of $37 trillion to the global economy. When we reach that stage, as a humanity, we will have so many other questions to ask ourselves. Now, just imagine yourself for a moment in a world where all of those problems we just discussed, so chronic diseases or, literally people dying, when those problems, if we place them aside, we need to reconstruct our society because it's built on this premise.
Our next guest is Nika Pintar, the founder and the head of revenue at Ani Biome, a longevity biotech startup at the forefront of microbiome health and longevity. Nika believes that the winning longevity drug won't be a molecule, but an algorithm. At Ani Biome, they have built an integrated machine learning infrastructure to tackle mental, muscular, and immunological longevity through the gut. Their bioactives, so-called AgeBiotics, are preclinically and clinically proven and offered through a personalized subscription model. Nika's passion for providing personalized science-backed solutions to support the gut and improve overall well-being is the driving force behind her work.
There are hieroglyphs that are shown in the British Museum, showcasing the most well-known scene from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's called the Book of Ani. So Ani was a scribe, and basically it depicts how Ani is entering afterlife, how his heart was lighter than a feather, meaning that he lived a life that was moral and just during his time on earth, and he was allowed to pass into the afterlife to live the immortal life with the gods in joy, bliss, happiness, abundance. And biome is community, life. It's about this complete ecosystem. So what is the next stage? That's the question.
And if you are just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.
Hello, Recursive community. Welcome back to our podcast, this time from sunny Croatia, where we're hosted by Infobip. Nika, it is a real pleasure to have you here.
Irina, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you today.
Before we start, or actually as we start, I would like us to go a bit back in time.
Oh.
And I want to understand a bit better what fascinated you with the world of microbiome health.
Well, at Ani Biome, we truly believe gut is at the center of our health, and science confirms that as well. So it's an emerging field of science. However, the reason why I personally got into it is because I suffered from a severe gut-brain interaction disorder. It is estimated that more than 40% of people worldwide suffer from some type of gut-brain interaction disorders. So I'm not the only one. However, what I experienced on my own skin is that it's not just about the gut. It's about how the gut influences all other aspects and areas of our life, our quality of life, our ability to interact with others, our ability to achieve a high level of energy, or just a purposeful mental state where we are able to experience joy and to actually experience social interactions in a way we should. So what happened to me was that I went for a very simple routine surgery. I was given painkillers afterwards, and basically I had a reaction to those painkillers. No one believed me. Doctors didn't want to actually look at me. I mean, they told me, oh, you're fine, you're young, nothing's wrong with you, you're just experiencing some pain, drink more tea and you will be fine. But I said, I'm not fine, my stomach is burning and it's not going away. What do I do? So I had to actually beg to go to the hospital. And when I came there, I heard the one thing no one wants to hear when they're in the hospital. So I was undergoing endoscopy. That's when they stick the tube down and so on. And I was lying on that table. It's a horrible experience overall. And suddenly I hear the doctor saying, oh, all the students, come here. We've never seen anything like this. So it turned out I had 3 stomach ulcers at once. I was given therapy which caused me even more problems. It was just like one thing led to another. I had experienced damage to my esophagus, even being diagnosed with a precancerous state. However, there was a moment in time when I was given a paper which said, oh, this is now the final therapy that you just take for the rest of your life.
Wow. So it became a chronic condition.
A chronic condition, yes. And then I looked at that paper, and I did this at my own responsibility. I don't recommend anyone do this. And I said, I'm gonna figure it out on my own. I threw that paper away. I never picked up that therapy, and I went down the rabbit hole of gut health. But what I would like to emphasize here is what I experienced firsthand is how our gut consequently influences all other areas of our health. Because suddenly, throughout my whole life, I've been a very ambitious individual. I've been a high achiever, high performer, traveled a lot, lived in different countries, always been doing some, projects and so on, always been starting a momentum. And suddenly I experienced something entirely new and foreign to me, and that was this feeling of, I don't know how to go out into the world anymore. I started suffering from panic attacks, from migraines, anxiety. My whole body was inflamed. I started experiencing joint pain, things that made me feel like I was trapped in the body of a 75-year-old or above. And my pace of aging just felt like it was exponentially rising. And at a certain point, I even accepted that as a standard for my life. For example, I knew if it was rainy or windy outside, I would just not go out because I knew I would suffer from a migraine afterwards. And there was a moment in time when I reflected on myself and thought, is this what I want to satisfy myself with? Is there a way I can reverse this damage, because there was a severe damage in my case? And how do I approach that? And I was willing to try out anything.
How much did you know about microbiome back
Very
then?
little.
Very little.
Very little. I mean,
Okay.
I've always been a health conscious individual. I exercised a lot. I did take care of my nutrition and so on. However, I did not know so much about the science. However, I would dare say that gut microbiome in terms of science, and not just gut microbiome, the complete gut ecosystem would perhaps be a better way to explain it, is a very emerging field. So the science is very new and very recent, and at Ani Biome we are at the forefront of it. We are now collaborating with world-class universities in that field, conducting clinical trials, preclinical. So but it was this driving force of my personal story and deep understanding of what it means to go through such a state for people that is the driving force. Because being an entrepreneur, there are always hard moments, right? Especially leading a startup. That there's not a playbook. Each startup story is different.
This is why we're here.
This is why
It's what we do at the podcast. We pretty much dive into the stories of different founders so that we understand a bit better what is the mindset that is necessary so that you can survive this roller coaster. And I think for most of the founders, and especially what they report here sincerely in the podcast, it is not an easy journey. It's not a rock star journey that is, just, with confetti and success moments. Actually, behind the story, there is always a lot of challenges. And I guess this is also your case, which brings me actually to my next question. How did you get the bug for entrepreneurship? So you went through this horrific experience yourself. I guess you were fascinated that at some point you still managed to improve your health, but the solutions that you needed weren't there. So you created it. How did it happen?
It's an iterative process.
Yeah.
I would say I'm not the kind of entrepreneur that was like from a very young age knew they wanted to be an entrepreneur.
That's great.
That's not me.
So you can become an entrepreneur at any age? Do you believe that?
Yes, I definitely believe that. There are even now some funds, especially in the longevity field, that are investing in founders above 60, which I think is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I think we accumulate a lot of wisdom and knowledge throughout our lifetime, so why not start at any point? I think if someone feels it, they should go for it.
Definitely.
I would dare say the easiest thing is to start. It is continuing and going through all the obstacles that you never predicted, and that is the difficult part.
Yes.
I would, in this sense, really like to emphasize the importance of the people you surround yourself with. You mentioned Eva and Bruno, my co-founders. I can sincerely say that this journey without them would be impossible. I think what's really important is to find people who believe in the vision, but not just believe in it, but live it, and who are ready to do what it takes to go to the next level. Because I would, having been here for a while now, I would say that there are certain stages you go through as a startup. And it's really different when you're just starting and you have an idea on a paper. It's different when you have your first clients and you build your first community. Then it's again a next level when you're ready to scale. So what the startup life demands from you is that you have the ability to take the step back and reflect on yourself and what is necessary of me to develop now. What new skills do I need to acquire, or what is my next role, because your role is ever evolving.
I was just joking because I'm an entrepreneur, not of a fast-scaling company. We're still a service media company, but I always joke that every year I need like a new job description.
Yes.
Because my job has dramatically changed since the beginning, and it's not these changes, they don't happen because it's fun to change. It's just that the company needs you with a different capabilities, with different responsibilities, and if you keep on doing the same thing and you don't evolve, it might be fatal. Yeah,
I agree. I agree 100%.
I wonder, and sometimes I ask this to founders, and I'm always curious about the answer, and try not to be politically correct here.
Okay.
So, because of these challenges which you haven't predicted, you haven't expected, and I think this healthy or unhealthy, we can argue, dose of optimism is necessary for you to launch on this journey. But if you could go back in time, would you start it again? Would you found the company again? Do you still believe that that was the path that you needed to make?
I believe more than 100%. I feel such strong conviction that this is the path that I should be on. Yeah, it's a very strong feeling. I can elaborate a little bit more on that, but just it gets tough. But if you understand the why, and the why of Ani is so much larger than myself, or Bruno, or Eva, or all three of us together, and what we bring to the table. Because at Ani, ultimately, it's really about understanding longevity through the lens of the gut. And all the associated correlations, intercorrelations happening within our body. If we look at the gut as a communication channel, basically, through which we are continuously communicating with our own biology. So we are continuously providing it with new inputs. Every food we take, everything we interact with. So it goes through the gut, and it's an input, it's an information. What does that information lead to? How does it cause a chain of reactions in our body to provide us with the energy to be able to move, to be able to, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation today without that. So what is the capacity of our gut to act as an internal bioreactor? And the question today related to longevity is also, what do we consider a healthy individual? That is a very, very big question we must ask ourselves whenever we are talking about longevity. Because if we just look at, for example, the US population, and when we look at the state of metabolic health, only 1 in 10 Americans is considered metabolically healthy. 4 in 10 already have metabolic syndrome. So you have metabolic syndrome when you already have 2 conditions, such as diabetes, obesity, and so on. So 4 out of 10. The remaining part is leaning towards unhealthy, not towards healthy, because it's much easier to lean towards unhealthy than to regain your health, right? And if we only have 1 person that is healthy in 10, 1 individual, my question is that person healthy or just healthier than everyone else? And what do we consider ideal state of health today? And in that sense, what's really important is our mind and our mental health, our emotional volatility, ability to go through stressful situations, ability to expand our resilience. Now, there is an unpopular opinion that I have, and I believe that stress is very important in our lives. Not going through the hardcore stress all the time. I'm not...
How do you define stress? Because we do know that anxiety but excitement in the brain are pretty much similar processes, yeah? And we can also what is the word? We can also kind of like condition ourselves depending on, do we talk to ourselves as, oh, I have the stage fright, I'm so nervous, I'm gonna go and it's gonna, I'm so afraid? Or do you talk to yourself as, I'm excited, let's do this, let's go? It is important how do you embrace the challenge that you're going to face, and that would condition how your brain and also how your body would react hormonally.
Yes, I would say it's what's really important is to train this, to take the time to also implement certain activities into your daily life, to really be able to, when the time comes, when a stressful situation occurs, that you are ready for it. So it's pretty much like, you know, the football match does not just happen on the field. It happens before that, when the team is training, when they're learning how to be synchronized. when they're looking at the tactics of the other team and so on, understanding how they need to work together. It's kind of like that when we approach ourselves, especially being an entrepreneur. I feel being an entrepreneur is pretty much similar to being an athlete, because undoubtedly that a new challenge will arise. You don't know when it will happen. You don't know what level it will be on. You just know it will come.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in establishing your own routine that helps you ensure that you're in this mental state to be able to actually go through that. For me personally, it's my morning routine, and I know the difference when I do that, and I know a difference when I do it regularly, or sometimes you just have a period like May and June, like always, it's the event season. So you won't fly from one place to another. You need to adapt. You change food you're eating and so on. But in general, if you have your own inner stability, that means a lot.
In this sense, I also wanted to ask you, what is healthy gut microbiome?
There is no definition.
I also couldn't find one. To be sincere here, I'm a bit of a aficionado of everything that has been discovered around gut health. I myself am very passionate, and I try to follow at least certain instructions of how can I live also healthier. I do believe that it's connected to our general health, mental health and physical, and so I don't need to lecture you on that. You do know better. And I couldn't find any definition of healthy microbiome. There is also a huge difference between where you live, but what was surprising to me is that not necessarily depending, the microbiome is not really necessarily depending on what you eat, or you can influence it always, I don't know, just as much.
There are many, many factors that influence the gut and the microbiome. Even some we can not influence anymore. For example, how we were born. Was it C-section or was it vaginal birth?
Yeah.
Then also what our mothers were eating, or there are just some things we cannot influence. Then
I always wondered if our microbiome is also influenced by the people that we live with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so definitely, because we are continuously sharing our space, hence also the microbiome with the people.
So the saying, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are now, has a totally different meaning.
Yes, I would argue that definitely that's something to take into consideration. Our social interactions definitely shape our microbiome also. Physical activity, exposure to I don't know whether we are out, whether the air is good, is it polluted? So are we in the nature? Are we more indoors? There are so many factors influencing it. But what I would like to emphasize is that the gut is an ecosystem that does not just we always talk about the microbes, right? But it's not just the microbes. There's also the human cells that are involved, the fungi, and so on. So the viruses that we are not talking about so much, but for example, it's also a very important aspect of it. In that sense, everything we interact with interacts with us. So there is this level of, if we just look at it as everything is in information, and the gut is like the processing unit of our body. So everything we come into touch with influences it. Now, as you said, it's not just the food. However, the quality of our nutrition is definitely a very important aspect. And what's very important as well is how do we actually measure it? How do we, there is no ideal gut microbiome profile. You can look in the literature, there is not one size fits all solution. That is why at Ani we pursue this personalized approach where we look at each and every individual. And what we developed is a way to non-invasively assess. So we are taking photos, so we ask our users to take photos of their tongue on a daily level over a longer period of time, because the tongue is the beginning of our digestive system.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, we developed our machine learning architecture in order to understand and predict how we can optimize the function of the entire ecosystem inside by providing the right inputs through our bioactives. So we already preclinically and clinically validated their effect. And what's very important here is this method of assessment where we are looking to establish a digital biomarker of aging that it would be non-invasive, and where we would be looking at the pace of aging, again with this highly personalized approach, because not just that the microbiome is individual, so it's our pace of aging, so how quickly or slowly the aging process is occurring within us. And that is what we are looking to understand with the machine learning architecture.
And what are the AgeBiotics that you would then recommend to someone who would like to improve their health? What do they consist of? How do you create them? Are they personalized as well?
So these are AgeBiotics. So they come in these pouches. What's inside is a liquid, and you dilute them in a glass of water. If you'd like, I can make one for you.
Yeah.
So
how would I know that this one is good for me?
Well, I cannot tell you. This is just one sample that I brought now for this.
I'm just curious. It's great.
But
okay, that's practical.
Yes. So in general, we did validate their effect on gut barrier integrity, gut barrier function, improvement in short-chain fatty acid production.
This is perfect for me.
Yeah, I like to emphasize this effect on short-chain fatty acids.
Yes.
So they are signaling molecules that are basically instructing our body with providing instructions what to do. So they influence our mood, they influence our behavior, our ability to make decisions, hormonal health, and so on. So in that sense, that's a very exciting aspect of our AgeBiotics. So when it comes to AgeBiotics, they are actually a blend of different functional groups. So different organic acids, different polyphenols, amino acids, biopeptides, and so on, that are fermentation derived. So we ferment different plant, herbal, bacterial, fungal material. And in that sense, we get this synergistic blend of functional groups. We conduct very extensive analysis, and we use the machine learning models to understand and predict for each individual what would be the optimal combination. So we don't per se personalize each sachet for you. However, the monthly composition, so our clients receive a monthly bundle of 30 AgeBiotics as a daily ritual, is personalized on a monthly level. So when our clients start the first month, we ask them to start immediately with using the app.
Okay.
So we can, so we are able to personalize for them. So the personalization journey is that you, through the Ani Biome app, provide a photo of your tongue in the morning, and you also answer a set of questions. So the questions are related to your mental, emotional, cognitive capacity, abilities, because we believe that it's equally, if not more important, to understand the human as a through a holistic approach, because ultimately the outcome is in how we feel. The outcome of all the biological processes happening within our bodies is in how we feel. Are we able to have high levels of energy? Are we able to be creative? Are we able to be inspired? Are we able to take a step back and do the deep thinking so we can actually do the work that needs to be done? So in that sense, we utilize those questions to also understand how is a person's state of psychological and mental level.
Okay, I have here a couple of questions. So the AgeBiotics that you have created are recommendable for any type of person. They cannot harm you. That's my first question.
So they fall into the category of supplements. So they're liquid supplements, and in that sense, supplements are a part of food. So they're food products. We launched them on the market quite some time ago. We do have plenty of people using it, sharing it also with their children at times and so on. So definitely, as you can see, you can drink it.
And what they consist of are basically the products of fermentation. So you do the fermentation with different types of plants, fungi. That's what I heard, but I guess there are also other types of fermented foods. And you combine them, and your users take them, and they can observe how the AgeBiotics are influencing their health.
So
through the
we
app?
we have people who have come to us who, so on one hand, we do all of this scientific research in the background. So we have more than 4 million euros worth of studies, either upcoming or already ongoing, some even finished now in the bioinformatics phase. So I'll provide an example of our preclinical validation that I already said, where we looked at gut barrier integrity, gut microbiome function, short-chain fatty acid production, and so on.
I just wonder, how are the AgeBiotics and the app related? Like, why do I need the app if I'm going to take AgeBiotics, which are anyway going to make me healthier?
So
what is the benefit of the app?
It's in the personalization. As I already mentioned, what's really important is this tailored approach to understand each individual and to be able to provide them with the optimal set for them given their stage of life. Because there are there will be periods in your life when you will be undergoing more stress, less stress, you will be traveling more, you will be traveling less, or just undergoing through some more difficult periods. So there will be changes that will be happening. So in order to understand and optimize the monthly bundle of AgeBiotics, we need to understand you.
Okay, so the AgeBiotics that you're creating, they come in a bundle that you basically combine together based on the personalized data.
Yes, so the bundle is evolving. So it's not you answer a set of questions and you get a bundle and then that's it for the foreseeable period. No, it's changing on a monthly level and adapting to your needs.
And I have another question. How long do the supplements need to be taken so that we start observing their effect? I think when I was facing health challenges, when I was trying to adopt my health routine, especially also taking care a bit more of my health gut, it was hard for me to understand what is affecting me well and what is affecting me bad, because I had the feeling that the effects, they take a long time. And you know, especially in the beginning when you're experimenting with different stuff, at some point you don't know what is actually now good for me, what is improving my health and what is not improving my health, and what should I eliminate from all the supplements that I'm taking at some point. Or are the supplements, or is it something else? You just get so confused because there is like a lag between what you're taking and the improvements on your health.
So we have people report benefits. Now I'm not talking about the clinical trials, I'm now talking about anecdotal evidence.
Yes.
So our clients report some benefits immediately. For example, helping with heartburn or helping with bloating and so on. However, the greater benefits come from consistent intake. So we have people reporting, of course, after they have been consistently taking them for some period of time, improvements in their skin health, overall levels of energy, focus, in general improvement in digestion. So frequency of digestion processes and so on. So it's highly individual, of course. However, there are certain moments that are really tough on the startup journey, but what really makes the journey worthwhile for me is when I receive client feedback.
Of course.
Because when I read a message from a person that for several years they were looking for a solution and that they tried anything else out there that there was, and it didn't work for them, and that for the first time in a couple of years they see the benefits and they are able to sleep better and have higher levels of energy and just overall improve their well-being, then I know that what we are doing, that we are on the right path. Sometimes we receive messages that are like this long. And why is that? Because, as you mentioned yourself, in the context of people who are generally looking to improve their health, and I would argue there are many of them nowadays, unfortunately we have more and more people suffering from autoimmune conditions at younger ages. I've seen a lot of people my age or younger really significantly having their health deteriorate, and I think that's quite sad. And they're looking for solutions, and when they find something that works, they really get engaged. So sometimes I find myself in the office and we receive this long message and I'm like, oh my God, we need to respond with equal amount or even more care and attention and love, because we have clients who are so engaged, who want to share with us the benefits they've experienced and everything that they tried before and what didn't work for them and how this makes them feel, and they want to learn. And I'm just so grateful to have them around us, and they're actually what ultimately Ani Biome is about, because in the context of the longevity industry, we are one of the rare companies that already have a product on the market with this level of scientific evidence that we have. And I would say it's not just the science or just the people, it's not just the product or the research behind, but what's our unique angle is blending those two together. So our clients are helping us, they're supporting us on our mission to understand the interactions between the gut and the rest of the body and our overall longevity, especially in the context of mental health, emotional health, and so on. And
I guess they're your ambassadors, but they're also those who are going to give you the foundation so that you can improve your own research and provide solutions which are going to be personalized. I think what we have been lacking now, or at least before we had AI, is the capability to make research that is done in a certain segment of people, and then you have a representative group and a control group and a placebo group and so on and so forth, and then you make some conclusions and they should apply for everyone. But as we know, health is a very individual thing, just like probably the microbiome is a very individual thing. So the solutions are not going to be one size fits all. It's not a silver bullet.
Exactly.
So I think for the first time, AI and the computation capabilities or capacities giving us actually
Exactly.
is enabling us to precision health solutions to the individual. Yeah.
Yes, that's why we say we are first and foremost an AI company.
Yeah.
And we sincerely believe that when we look at the context of the longevity industry, so longevity, I have a lot of people, first time I'm talking to them, they say, well, longevity has, I'm not, I don't want to live so long. It has nothing to do with me. It's an industry that I'm not so acquainted with.
But I think longevity is not only about the length of life, it is
Exactly.
about actually expanding your health span, right?
Ultimately, it's about how you feel today, because that will inevitably lead to increased health span, of course, if you feel great today, right? And then lifespan will only be a consequence. That's how we perceive it.
You can live long and not be healthy, which is, I
Yes.
think, the most horrible thing to have. Yeah.
Yes, and if you look, for example, at IBD patients, inflammatory bowel disease, we are also now conducting one preclinical validation of AgeBiotics on IBD donors. So when you look at IBD, it's diagnosed usually between the ages of 18 to 35. 18 to 35. And that means that a person will most likely live for about 3/4 of their life with that condition.
Yeah. Well, again, it is an autoimmune condition, and that's the thing about autoimmune condition. I mean, you get the diagnosis once based on certain symptoms. They say you cannot be cured, but it's interesting how, depending on your life choices, you can totally get into a remission, right?
Well, there are.
So you're not considered healthy.
Yeah, there are so-called IBD flares.
Yeah.
So let's say periods when the inflammatory state is acute. Actually, we were part of the EIT Health program for recognition, early recognition, detection and prediction of IBD flares through our machine learning architecture. One of 8 startups in Europe selected for this program.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yes, so that was a very, very big aspect of it as well. Very significant milestone for us to be recognized on such a level. So, yes, in different conditions, there are those moments in time when you just go through more acute inflammation, then it gets better, but ultimately, it's when you look at your whole life and the quality of that life, how can we get it to the next step? Because if my mother suffered from a chronic condition, and I've also been through that experience of going with her to the hospital and witnessing her undergoing panic attacks, just waiting for the results. Because you're continuously just in this state of waiting and asking yourself, will it get worse at some point? And how, and that is this aspect of mental health. Because if there is this fear you're continuously living with, this might get worse. How will this influence me? How will this influence my family? Will I be a burden to my family? Longevity industry is a very intimate industry because it makes us question and challenge the standards of life. And again, what it means to be healthy, how do we improve that? And it touches every single one of us because ultimately it's about time spent in high levels of health, time spent in high quality interaction with people around us. And we all have that moment in life when our phone rings and someone tells us that someone close to us, a friend, a relative, a loved one is in the hospital. And how do we prevent that completely? Because that is all a result of aging.
I think
It's deep
for
and tough.
I think it's for the normal user it could be very confusing, because when we say longevity we think about long life. When we say aging, we think about getting old and getting wrinkles. And I think from a longevity perspective, these conditions are actually considered disease. Yeah, if you're healthy, you shouldn't be aging. Yeah, and you'll probably live long as a consequence. But I think it's not how we have it in our brain, because when we think of elderly people, we often think of their diseases as well, and the knees hurting, and they would have some kind of like a heart condition and they need to take the pills. And I think at some point we started accepting that as a standard. Yeah, so we relate or we associate age with sickness. Yeah, and I guess this is why all these terms can be confusing for someone who is just in pursuit of living healthier today. Yeah, but I guess
I think it's an interesting topic to discuss, definitely. But that's why they say, when we just look at the market, it is estimated that a drug approved for aging would reach the market size of 150 to 200 billion dollars annually. Exactly for this reason.
Yeah,
because aging occurs in every one of us. As you and I are speaking, we are aging. Our bodies are deteriorating.
Don't remind me of this. Please don't remind me of this. I'm trying to forget this every now and then. Anyway, because
but how can we utilize the potential of our gut to act as an internal bioreactor to produce molecules of interest to prevent that from happening? That is the pursuit of Ani Biome. And we believe that the longevity drug will not be a molecule, but rather that it will be an algorithm that will enable us to bioengineer the gut and what it produces real time to get the desired effect.
And this algorithm is probably going to be very personalized, or at least more heterogenic than most of the medicines or drugs that we are used to take. This is what I also find exciting. But because we don't have much time, unfortunately, and it's so fascinating.
And time is always the problem.
Yeah. So health is a huge topic, and you mentioned that earlier, that your clients are pretty much a big part of what Ani Biome is. It is. You're also a very open ecosystem. Maybe just like the gut ecosystem. You're also interacting with them. You're improving your solutions based on the inputs that they're going to give you. We are going into an age where we will probably have also a lot of wearables on us, so they're going to produce even more and more data, so we can increase even the precision of any kind of medicines in the future. So I ask myself, okay, we talk about the beginning of your journey and how it started, and it was, of course, with a lot of challenges, and I'm sure that this kind of industry can be challenging for someone who is especially has come into this industry from a different one. Now I wonder, how do you imagine the end of this journey? Like, what is the final vision? When is the moment where you would sit and you would say, okay, I've done my job, I'm successful, or I've completed my mission? Is there a point like this in your head, and how do you imagine it?
This is an excellent question. And I think this is only the very beginning. The depth of the longevity industry is that it will inevitably be the largest industry the world has ever seen. If we only add 1 year of health span to the global population, it will lead to an increase of $37 trillion to the global economy. And in that sense, it's a very young industry. Ani Biome has a very unique angle to it. And in that sense, yes, we did start with the bioactives. However, we are utilizing the data to further optimize the platform to provide it as a B2B service. And our vision ultimately is to be an enabler for the longevity industry, like NVIDIA for longevity through the algorithms that we have. But I would add that that's not where my job ends, because when we reach that stage, as a humanity, we will have so many other questions to ask ourselves. Now, just imagine yourself for a moment in a world where all of those problems we just discussed, so chronic diseases or literally people dying, when those problems, if we place them aside, we need to reconstruct our society, because it's built on this premise.
Yes, exactly.
And there is just one last message to wrap this around. I would like to actually share a story what's behind the name of Ani Biome, because Ani, I'll be quick. There is a picture. Well, actually, there are hieroglyphs that are shown in the British Museum, showcasing the most well-known scene from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's called the Book of Ani. So Ani was a scribe, and basically it depicts how Ani is entering afterlife, how his heart was lighter than a feather, meaning that he lived a life that was moral and just during his time on earth, and he was allowed to pass into the afterlife to live the immortal life with the gods in joy, bliss, happiness, abundance. And biome is community, life. It's about this complete ecosystem. So what is the next stage? That's the question. And how do we envision society after we solve aging? That's ultimately what also drives me, and I can't wait to be there, and then to have a completely new set of questions we must ask ourselves as a society as a whole.
Then let's hope that we would be able to experience this vision of yours firsthand, and we would be able to not only see it, but also to participate in this, maybe, I don't know, next generation of society. Well, thank you, Irina, for giving me the space. Thank you for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
And if you're just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.